Good afternoon, everybody. I already met all of you just seconds ago. Some of you I've known for a little while now. My name's Hiltz. My senior project this year was to create a Westerly High School debate club. So, I'm sure the presentation you've seen before, they talked about the huge process of choosing a senior project. Everyone thinks about it throughout their high school career. Starting almost freshman year for some kids, it's something people are always thinking about. What should I do for my senior project? So, everyone knows it's a graduation requirement, but people want to pick something that's really important to them personally. It's something that will develop them and something they'll enjoy along the way also. So I drew from some things that I knew about myself in order to pick my project. So I have a really deep vested interest in politics. I always have. I've been known to be very heated over current events and politics and always involved in current affairs around me. I'm a big believer in social responsibility. I think it's important for people to be aware of the world around them and involved in it, especially as citizens of the United States. As Benjamin Franklin once said, after he signed the Declaration of Independence, he was consulted in the street and someone asked, what happened in there? What do we have now in this country? And Benjamin Franklin said, a democracy, if you can keep it. I think social responsibility is important to keeping that democracy. Contrarianism. As you can see my little graphic there, the art of contrary thinking. A lot of people know me as a contrarian. It can be annoying at times, but I think that there's a deep benefit in questioning things around you and always trying to develop things by arguing against them, whether you agree with them or not. Any idea can be improved by looking at the faults in it. My goals for the senior project was to create a place to foster critical outlooks on current events and encourage intelligent discussion through, as I said, the debate club. So, as you can see here, I have a little graphic of a Enlightenment era salon. So, for those of you who don't know, a salon was something that was very important in the formation of the French Revolution and many of the greatest changes throughout the world pre-formation of America, and even during the formation of America, they manifested themselves as different things, but this picture is known as a salon. So in salons, some of the greatest minds of the area and some of the less great minds of the area would get together and sit in a round, open format like this, and they would simply just debate the issues that came into their mind and their beliefs and just constantly discuss and debate and look for ways to make the world better. And those were very key in the formation of the world we know today, and many of the greatest ideas in the world, democracy, the earliest democracies as well as the newest democracies have come from this kind of open forum debate. So that's why I think it's important to have an opportunity to foster those critical outlooks on current events and encourage intelligent discussion through debate clubs in this case. My senior paper, the thesis was increased aptitude and critical thinking skills will make constructive changes to American life and industry in a society that often reduces ideas to monetary and immediate value. So if any of you in here are very interested in current events, you're probably well aware of, especially as teachers, the Common Core disputes that have been going on, as well as debates about how we prepare children for the workforce, the way that we should be looking at the world in terms of politics, ideology, the big rifts between the giant political parties, as well as the ideological rifts that fuel them. So the way I looked at it was increased aptitude and critical thinking skills, not necessarily only in the school level, but also in the world level, in the careers and whatnot, can really change America for the better. So I analyzed it in a few different parts, beginning with on the school level and then into the professional development level in terms of within corporations and businesses and the way that could foster enhanced ethical regulation and more than that desire to be ethical without being regulated, as well as in the political world where people are kind of in it for the money oftentimes or sticking to party lines when not necessarily the best idea for the country. So those are the different parts of my research paper, the multi-part analysis of the important critical thinking. That connects back to my project and the fact that this debate club is designed to foster critical thinking in the first place. My mentor for the progress was Miss Halliday. She's a WHS English teacher just down the hall on the floor below us. I had her sophomore year, and when I was looking for mentors, there were a few different things I had to consider. A lot of the people I asked, I've gotten in a lot of debate with teachers over the years, with my current affairs teachers, even my science teacher, Mr. Varden, we've had political debates. So they all know me as somebody who's into that, and I found a lot of teachers who I thought would be really great debate mentors, but the main issue is time. Nobody really had time to help except Miss Halliday. And Miss Halliday was great because she's tried to start debate clubs in the past. She's such a friendly lady. She has a great connection with students in the school, so she could talk it up. And she had a room available for me to use, which was incredibly helpful, so we could meet in a regular room all the time and have students having more reliable attendance as opposed to having to switch rooms and try to find space when we could use it. So she was incredibly important throughout the whole process. My learning stretch, nope, okay. My learning stretch included organizational skills, debate rules and styles, and running a school-sanctioned activity. So, I've always had huge issues with organization. I'm always all over the place, losing papers, things like that. That's always been one of my biggest struggles. A lot of the time I think a lot faster than I can actually enact things, and that causes me to lose things all the time and leave things behind, be very forgetful. So organizational skills are something that's really going to be really important for me once I get to college, and something that has kind of hurt me throughout my high school career. So in terms of this project, I had to make sure that I really kept everything as organized as I possibly could so that I didn't let anything slip or miss anything important, as well as for my own benefit so that I could be better with my organization by the time I got to college. Debate rules and styles. As I told all of you, I really have always loved to debate with people often and have these passionate arguments about the way things work in the world and current affairs, but I'm not very experienced with doing it in a structured format, as in terms of the debate teams throughout the state and the way that schools would compete with each other. So I had to research the different styles for debate and the rules regarding them and the way that it would work, not only so that I would know them, but I had to know them well enough to be able to teach them to the members of the debate club. So that was a challenge. That took a lot of research, and I even had to travel to competitions and spectate to make sure that I knew the way that they were run. I also had to run a school sanctioned activity, which I've never done before. I had to make sure that everything went according to school rules, and there was also the issue of funding within that, so I'll talk about that in a moment. So now I'm going to talk to you about the actual process of instating the debate club and making it run and all of that really interesting stuff about the actual project itself. So one of the first problems I faced in terms of the process was determining the structure of the team, and that had a lot of variables that went into that. So was it going to be a debate team or a club? How was I going to get transportation if it was going to be a team with competitions? Those were all questions I had to evaluate. So I started off meeting with Mr. Zito and talking to him, and he said that we could have a debate club underneath the Westerly High School umbrella, but he could not provide us funding for transportation. So that was something I had to figure out. What would we do? Would we have people pay to go and compete against other schools? And we didn't think that was reasonable for people who had never competed before. We wanted to have it open to everyone, so we decided to just run it as a club format where people could come and talk to each other. We didn't compete against other schools, but we hope to do that next year. A struggle we also had was attendance, because whenever we scheduled a meeting for Tuesday, there were a ton of people who had obligations Tuesday, but if we switched to Wednesday, the other half of the people would have an obligation Wednesday. I'm sure you all know how that works in the real world. So I had to find a way around that, try to find the way that was the best that I could schedule for the most amount of people to make it, if not the perfect situation where everyone could make it. So I'm kind of a perfectionist personally, so that was a little bit of a struggle for me to accept that there's no way for me to make it so it works with everyone, and I have to just make the best choice that I could. My own knowledge base, I talked a little bit about that with the way that I understood the rules that debate works with and the structure. So once I increased that knowledge base, it made it a lot easier for me to teach it to the debate club members. And of course, the scheduling, which I touched upon, that ties in very closely with attendance, trying to figure out how many meetings to have and when. So, this first picture was what we had at the beginning of the year, one of the first meetings. Those are the total amount of people we had in the club, plus one person who wasn't present that day, Olivia Obertello. And this was the picture at the end of the year that went to the yearbook. So as you can see, the base of people grew, as well as once we could get everyone together in one room, it's a lot bigger group than we had when we were in the actual functioning meetings. The civic benefit of this project, I believe that that's the most important thing about this, not necessarily any personal benefit it had to me, but the impact it has on the world. So although it may seem kind of extrapolating too far, I really want to change the world through this project. I think if every person can do what they can to inform others around them and be informed themselves about what's going on in the world and try to foster open discussion at all times, that can always improve the democracy we live in and try to stretch basically the democracy of the United States throughout the world. I don't want to sound like an imperialist here, but basically try to extend goodwill to people throughout the world, and through sharing knowledge and open debate, I think that's the best way to improve the world and solve many of the world's problems. It's important to be informed citizens. There's been a lot of issues lately with people who are just barely over the age of 18 who haven't been voting. They're the smallest voter group, and yet demographically they're still a very large group of people. So it's important for them to be voters, and not only voters but informed voters, so that we can make the right choices for the country as we move forward. don't be a witness. I'm sure you've heard that phrase before. Many of the current sophomores and people who have come through the high school hear that phrase when they visit the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. Don't be a witness, because those horrible things that happened, there were so many people who recognized them and just were basically in denial to themselves and didn't talk about it to anyone. And I think if people can be informed and have open discussion like we try to foster with the debate club, we can stop tragedies from happening in the future. So I hope that this project will change the world in that fashion. Thank you very much for so patiently and so attentively regarding my presentation. And does anyone have any questions or comments? Go ahead.
I'm impressed.
Oh, thank you very much.
For you.
I'm
And
glad.
like you to be so knowledgeable about
you.
all this. Excellent.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Will the club be in existence next year?
That's my plan. We've been working on trying to find a person or two people to continue running it as president and co-president next year. And we did the best we could to try to set up everyone so that they learned the rules of the debate actual competitions, so that next year they'll be able to, maybe if they can obtain funding or charge members, to go and compete against other schools too. Go ahead.
How many schools did you go to this year? Competitions, debates, did you win?
Um,
What was the result?
We didn't debate against any other schools this year. We made the decision to have it a club within our school so we could debate amongst ourselves. I personally traveled to Providence to see a multi-school debate, to see how it was running, to check out the JV levels and the varsity levels and see if our kids were ready for it. We didn't really think they were ready and we would have to charge them for it, so we didn't think that was fair yet. But now that they've been prepared for a year, we're hoping that people will be willing to pitch in a little bit of money and pay for transportation and compete against other schools next year.
It was interesting, you talked about the debate, your roadblocks, and how you had to meet with Mr. Rizito and do the school-sanctioned event. I'm a class advisor, Ms. Dyer is too, so sometimes we're well aware of trying to get events to
Right.
take place that you think are great things,
Yeah.
but there are so many roadblocks that go along with it. I give you a lot of credit for following through with that, because sometimes you're like, forget it, it's
Yeah.
not worth the headache. So,
Right.
and then I know meeting with Mr. Rizito is also a challenge also,
Yeah.
because he's so busy.
Oh, yes.
So that I give you a lot of credit for that and pushing through that. So.
Yeah, I could have probably spent 12 minutes on the roadblocks alone, honestly.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Did you take the lead in deciding debate topics as well as who would be on what side of
Yeah.
each topic?
It depended on the current meeting. Sometimes we would have an open forum where someone could bring forward an issue that they cared about, and it would be a free-for-all, everyone for themselves almost, discussing, agreeing, disagreeing about it. On the other side of the spectrum, we would have a situation where I would pick a topic 2 weeks in advance and give them two teams, and they would debate against each other in that fashion, and they would do research and prepare for it. And then there was multiple meetings that fell somewhere in between on that spectrum as well. So maybe something where I picked a topic but everyone went on their own, or someone else picked a topic and then we split into two sides. A lot of various different structures and the ways we went about that.
Was there a topic that really created a lot of buzz and
Mhm.
tension and excitement?
Yeah, there definitely was. A few funny stories about that. One would be a topic, abortion, of course, that's always a really heated thing. Things regarding freedom of religion. All those more social than economic topics tended to get everyone going more because they didn't have quite the knowledge base to be tackling like economic issues or issues with really heavy stuff about the law. But the social issues like abortion and religious freedom got everybody really going, and it really polarized the debates. Another interesting thing about that was there was one situation where I and the co-president Olivia Obertello, we wanted to give a quick example, and I just came up with a topic, and then instantly we were just in a heated debate for over 45 minutes, just me and her back and forth, and everyone ended up watching. Kind of funny about that. We've known each other for a long time, and we've always had polar opposite political views, and working on the debate team together has been a really interesting experience because of that.
Hopefully you're still friends.
Yeah.
What are you doing next year, and are you gonna continue the debate scene when you get to college?
I'd like to. I'm attending Bentley University next year. I'd like to participate in some kind of debate club or work for some kind of campaigning service or even a lobbying agency in Washington, D.C., something like that. Or there's a lot of options like that at Bentley. They offer internships with big economic think tanks, a lot of options along those lines. So I've always been more to the economic side of politics. So hopefully something like that, that really appeals to me if I can get chosen, because it's like a competitive process. Once you're there, that's what I'd like to do.
Okay, thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you so much.